Still drowning in your problems? Do emotions overwhelm you, people drain you, and daily life consume you? The answer is simple. You don't think like a Stoic. Period. As long as you don't train your mind, you'll keep falling into the same traps. It's not that life is too hard, it's that you're not strong enough yet. And the worst part is, you know it. How much longer are you going to ignore it? Life won't stop testing you, but you can stop failing the test. In this video, I'm going to share the most powerful lessons from Stoicism, so that, once and for all, you stop being a slave to your emotions and start living with clarity, strength, and control. These teachings aren't cheap inspiration. They're practical tools used by the Stoic sages to endure wars, exiles, tragedies, and still keep their calm. Today you'll understand that real power doesn't lie in changing the world, but in changing the way you face it. If you're ready to leave your old self behind, stay, because this isn't personal development, it's mental survival. Today I want to tell you about someone who, in the middle of all the noise and lights, found the calm she had been searching for years. Her name is Andrea. Andrea had always been the kind of person who arrived late to everything. Late to jobs, late to relationships, late to peace of mind. At 29, she felt like her life was a concert that was way too loud. Everyone around her was shouting, dancing, moving forward. And she, stuck in the crowd, just wanted to get out. One random Friday, her friend convinced her to go to a concert. Andrea didn't want to go, but she said yes just to avoid an argument. The place was packed, the lights were blinding, the floor sticky with beer. Everyone was jumping, pushing, singing along. Andrea could only think about leaving, and then she saw her. A girl, alone, sitting on an amplifier, legs crossed, eyes closed, wearing a calm smile. While everything around her was chaos, she was at peace. Andrea couldn't look away. That calmness startled her so much that she walked over and, almost shouting so she could hear, asked her, "How can you stay so calm here?" The girl opened her eyes, looked at her with amusement, and replied, "Because I'm not what happens outside, only what happens inside." Then she closed her eyes again. That phrase stuck in Andrea's head like a song she couldn't forget. That night, back at home, she searched online and found a quote by Epictetus. "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happen the way it happens, and you will be happy." She decided to try, just for 7 days. On Saturday, when an old woman pushed her in line at the supermarket, she took a deep breath and let her go ahead. On Sunday, when her ex texted asking to meet, she didn't reply and turned off her phone. On Monday, she arrived early to work, and when her boss criticized a report, she calmly said, "I'll review it." On Tuesday, she went to the movies alone and even laughed out loud at a scene, not caring about anyone. On Wednesday, instead of swallowing her anger at the family lunch, she got up from the table and went for a walk in the park. On Thursday, after months of not daring, she told her friend she didn't want to go to another party and stayed home reading. And on Friday, exactly a week later, she went back to that same bar for another concert. When she walked in, her friend looked at her, half surprised, half amused, and said, "You're unrecognizable." Andrea smiled, shrugged, and inside she thought, "Thanks. That was the idea. That's why I'm telling you today, you will be unrecognizable in just 1 week if you do this. If you stop being what happens outside and start being what happens inside. Just like Andrea, and you can do it too. We're starting strong today. I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you felt like yourself? No filters, no fear, not depending on anyone. If that question makes you uncomfortable, subscribe and become an exclusive member to start feeling in charge of yourself again. And leave it in the comments, what part of you got lost in the noise? Or just write, Stoic at heart. Because today you choose to be yourself again. Let's begin. Lesson 1. Be grateful even when everything's falling apart. Tell me something. How much time do you spend complaining about what's missing in your life? Do you catch yourself thinking about what went wrong, what never arrived, or what you've lost. And now the tougher question: how much time do you spend being thankful for what you do have? Most people live like everything is guaranteed, like waking up each morning is just routine, and not the miracle it really is. My friend, if you think about it, today you already have more than you once prayed for. The Stoics understood this deeply. In the midst of wars and loss, Marcus Aurelius wrote, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love." And he didn't say this from comfort. He wrote it while holding together an empire that was crumbling around him. That phrase isn't just a pretty quote for social media. It's a reminder that gratitude is the anchor that keeps you steady when life starts falling apart. Think about it. If Marcus Aurelius were alive today, maybe his gratitude journal would read, "The Wi-Fi didn't drop during my meeting. The universe is smiling on me." And as silly as that sounds, it's real. Gratitude often doesn't come from big moments. It comes from the smallest things: your coffee tasting just right, a stranger smiling at you on the street, or your home being quiet when you need peace. It's no coincidence that modern psychology has come to the same conclusion as the ancient Stoics. Robert Emmons, one of the most respected researchers on the subject, showed at the University of California that keeping a gratitude journal for just 10 weeks improves overall well-being, reduces physical symptoms of stress, and even boosts the immune system. What does that mean? That gratitude isn't a luxury. It's a habit that strengthens you, just like physical exercise. And if that sounds too abstract, let me tell you the story of John O'Leary. At just 9 years old, an accident left him with burns across his entire body. Doctors didn't think he'd make it through the night, but against all odds, he survived. Decades later, he became a public speaker and wrote the book, On Fire. His message? Gratitude was his fuel. Even on the days when the pain was unbearable, he gave thanks for one more breath, for a new sunrise, for every hand that helped care for him. That's not weakness. That's strength in its purest form. So, how can you make sure gratitude doesn't just stay a nice idea? Start your day by noticing one small thing you appreciate. It doesn't have to be profound. Maybe your coffee turned out just right. Maybe your kid laughed out loud this morning, or your body felt strong during a workout. And when something goes wrong, pause and try to find something to be thankful for, even within that moment. If you miss a train, be grateful for the chance to listen to music or read while you wait. And if your mind tells you, there's nothing good right now, try this. Imagine that tomorrow everything disappears. Your home, your health, your loved ones, your work. What would you miss the most? That is what you should be grateful for today. Being grateful doesn't mean denying pain or pretending everything's fine. It's training your mind to recognize that even when things seem to be falling apart, there's still something holding your life together. That's why Seneca advised giving thanks for what life had already given you, even if it seemed like little, because the person who can appreciate it never feels poor. And Epictetus, even as a slave, gave thanks for the one thing no one could take from him: his inner freedom. That's what it means to live like a Stoic, my friend. Because when you choose to be grateful in the middle of chaos, you don't just find calm, you find the clarity to overcome most of your difficulties, no matter what's happening outside. So here's my invitation to you. Don't overthink it, just do it. Write one single thing in the comments that you're grateful for today, even if it's tiny, even if it seems irrelevant. Because that small daily act is what builds Stoic discipline over time. And if you truly want to force yourself to live like a Stoic, start here. Be grateful, even when everything's falling apart. Lesson 2. Do what you must even when you don't feel like it. Ah, my friend, the famous motivation. That thing we're all chasing like it's some hidden treasure at the end of a rainbow. You know where it is? Me neither. Motivation is like that friend who promises to help you move and then vanishes the day you need them. Discipline, on the other hand, never bails. It shows up with a van, rolls up its sleeves, and starts hauling boxes even if it's pouring rain. Because waiting until you feel like it is like waiting for a cat to obey when you try to teach it tricks. It's not going to happen. And while you sit there waiting for that magical click to get you out of bed, life keeps moving and opportunities slip away. Seneca, who wasn't one for excuses, said it plainly. It's not because things are difficult that we don't dare. It's because we don't dare that they are difficult. If you're waiting to feel ready, you've already lost before you start. Sounds like a nice theory? It's not. Look at Andrew Huberman, the neuroscientist everyone looks to when it comes to the brain and habits. He doesn't talk about discipline because it sounds good. He lives it. He wakes up at 5 every day to train. Does he hate getting up early? He admits it without shame. But here's the interesting part. He doesn't do it out of pride or personal challenge. He does it because he knows the body and mind respond better when you act before your brain starts making excuses. He even says, I start on autopilot without thinking if I want to. Then the motivation shows up. And that makes him the perfect example. Because he doesn't just say it, he lives it. And that's the key. Discipline creates motivation, not the other way around. You've probably felt it yourself at some point. It's Saturday. Your alarm goes off at 7 because you decided to go running. It's cold outside, raining, and your bed feels like a cloud hugging you. Netflix whispers seductively, don't be silly, stay here. But you, looking like a zombie, get up, put on your sneakers, and head out. At kilometer 2, you still hate yourself. At kilometer 5, you start feeling proud. And when you get back home, someone says, hey, you've really been taking care of yourself lately. And it wasn't because you felt like it. It was because you did it anyway. And here's the good news. You can train that discipline like a muscle. It doesn't have to be heroic. Want to know how? Let me give you a very simple idea to make it happen in 7 days. Imagine that tomorrow you want to wake up early to read before touching your phone, drink some water, and move a little before starting the day. Perfect. But the key isn't in tomorrow. It's in tonight. Start by setting the stage. Leave everything ready. Water bottle on the nightstand, book open to the right page, sneakers by the door. If you can, even sleep in your workout clothes so you don't have to fumble with your closet half asleep. The less you have to think when you wake up, the better. When the alarm rings, get up on the first try. Yes, I know it's hard. Sometimes the sheets feel like they're holding you hostage. That's why I'm going to tell you a little magic secret. Put the alarm far from the bed. Far enough that you have to get up to turn it off. And once you're on your feet, don't lie back down. You've already won the first battle of the day. And to lure motivation out, leave notes around the house with phrases that hit you where it counts. On the mirror, today you don't decide. Your future self does. On the fridge, the hard part lasts 5 minutes. The satisfaction lasts all day. On the door, if you step outside now, you've already won. It might seem silly, but they work. In those moments when laziness screams, those notes remind you what really matters. And don't forget, the Stoics already knew this. They didn't wait to feel brave or motivated. They acted. Marcus Aurelius would write in his journal every morning what he was going to do that day, even when he didn't feel like it. And he did it anyway. Because he understood that discipline, clarity, and courage don't just appear, you build them. My friend, you are not the result of what you dream about when you're motivated. You're the result of what you do when you don't feel like it. That's real Stoic strength. And trust me, if you spend the next 7 days acting like this and doing what you must even with that Monday morning face, you'll become unrecognizable to yourself and to those around you. And now tell me, what's your trick for staying disciplined even when you have zero motivation? Share it in the comments. Your experience will surely help someone else. Or, if you prefer, simply write, "Today, I do what I must." Because in the end, that's what someone does when they choose to transform in 7 days. They do what has to be done, even when they don't feel like it. Lesson 3, no one will believe in you if you don't believe in yourself first. Let me ask you something. What happens if you don't bet on what you're capable of? The answer is tough. No one else will do it for you. Not your friends, not your family, not the world. Because if you don't trust in your own ability, no one else will have a reason to either. The Stoics understood this well. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." What does that mean? That the first battle isn't out there, it's inside you. If you don't believe in your mind, if you doubt your own strength, everything else crumbles. Imagine if Marcus Aurelius had second-guessed himself every morning, an emperor asking himself, "What if I'm not ready? What if I fail? What if they're right about me?" Rome wouldn't have lasted a single day. But he understood something critical. The strength of a leader begins with how he speaks to himself, not with what others say. Now bring it back to your own life. You're stuck in a job you hate. Endless hours, a boss who doesn't see your worth, co-workers who compete instead of collaborate. Every morning the alarm goes off and you feel a weight in your chest. You know this isn't the life you want. You know you deserve better. But then the doubt creeps in. You tell yourself, "I don't have time to look for something else. Maybe I'm not good enough. I'll just stick it out a little longer." And just like that, the days pass, the weeks, the years. Here's the truth. If you don't believe you can get out of there, no one else will believe it either. Your co-workers won't, your boss won't. And the world? Definitely not. Because if you don't bet on your own worth, why would anyone else? You know what the problem is? The mind always amplifies what it hears. If you feed it doubt, the doubt grows. If you feed it confidence, the confidence multiplies. You decide which seed to plant. Look at what Wilma Rudolph did. She was born premature, got polio as a child, and doctors told her she'd never walk without help. She had every reason to give up, to accept the story others had written for her, but she chose to believe in herself. She trained with discipline, pushed through every limitation, and not only walked again, but won 3 Olympic gold medals in track and field. What would have happened if she had trusted the doctors more than her own belief? Her story would have ended before it began. Here's the point: believing in yourself isn't arrogance, it's responsibility. Because if you don't choose you, no one else will. So how can you do that practically? Try this. For 1 week, every time someone gives you a compliment, no matter how small, don't dismiss it or brush it off. Write it down in a note on your phone or a notebook. Maybe a friend casually says, "I love how you really listen." Or someone at home tells you, "That was delicious. You should cook more often." We usually respond with, "Hey, it's nothing." But it is something. Those comments reflect real qualities you tend to overlook or minimize. At the end of the week, read them all together. You'll notice that people around you already see things in you, things you've stopped seeing in yourself. That outside reminder can help you begin believing in what's already there, even if you've forgotten it. And at the same time, do the opposite with your negative thoughts. Every time you catch yourself saying, "I can't," or "I'm not good enough," write it down too. But immediately turn it into a small action. If you think, "I can't find another job," write instead, "I'll check just 1 job listing today." This way, you train your mind to move from doubt to action in the moment. The Stoics had their version of this too. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself every day, reminding himself who he wanted to be and how he needed to act. He wasn't doing it for others, he was doing it for himself. It was how he trained his mind and held on to confidence in the face of leading an empire. Really think about it. If you don't bet on yourself, who will? Every step you take with confidence opens a new path. Every doubt you feed closes a door. The decision is in your hands, to keep believing more in other people's fears, or to start building your best self from the faith in what you're capable of. Start today. Choose you. Lesson 4. Do it anyway, whether you feel like it or not. I remember a time when I set a goal to wake up at 6 in the morning to study a course before heading to work. The alarm would go off and my first thought was, 5 more minutes. My body ached. My eyes could barely stay open and every part of me wanted to stay in bed. Most mornings I felt like giving up before even starting. But then I found a trick that changed everything. I made a promise to myself. No negotiations before 8 a.m. That meant no matter how many excuses my brain threw at me, I couldn't argue. I'd get up, half asleep, pull on my clothes, stretch a little, and sit down to study. Most of the time, I didn't enjoy it at first, but every time I finished, I was grateful I did it. That steady effort, even without motivation, opened doors I once thought were impossible. It's what allowed me to change jobs and move forward in ways I never imagined. That's when I realized, waiting to feel motivated is a trap. Motivation is like an unexpected visitor. Sometimes it shows up, but you never know when. If you rely on it, your life stays on pause. Meanwhile, time keeps slipping away. Epictetus said, "It's not enough to know what needs to be done, you have to do it." And he was right. Knowing the theory changes nothing. It's action, repeated day after day, that shapes your character. Marcus Aurelius wrote something in Meditations that almost hurts to read. He admitted that many mornings, he didn't want to get up either. He'd rather stay under the covers. And what did he do? He reminded himself that he was born to work like a human being, not to live like a creature that just sleeps. Think about that. The most powerful emperor in the world, with everything at his fingertips, struggling with the same laziness you feel when your alarm goes off. If he pushed himself to act, how could we not? These days, everyone's talking about habits. And James Clear, author of Atomic Habits, explains it perfectly. Consistency isn't built with massive, epic effort. It's built through small actions, repeated, even when you don't feel like it. It's like a muscle. If you only train when you're in the mood, it never grows. But if you train even when you don't feel like it, you get stronger, often without even noticing. Think about it in your everyday life. You come home exhausted after a long day. Dinner's waiting. The easiest thing is to grab your phone and order fast food. But instead, you walk into the kitchen, chop some vegetables, and cook something simple. It's not what you wanted to do, but you eat better and sleep better. Another example. You plan to go running, but it's raining. Your mind says, "Not today, tomorrow." But you lace up and go anyway, even if it's just 10 minutes. When you get back, you realize the weather wasn't the issue. It was your inner negotiation. Or that classic moment, you're already in pajamas and the trash is full. Your mind whispers, "I'll take it out tomorrow." But you go down now and do it. Those small wins matter far more than they seem. So how do you apply this practically? First, choose one key habit you want to stick with. Just one, not 10. Maybe it's reading daily, working out, meditating, or writing. Commit to never skipping it more than one day in a row. Draw that line and stick to it. If you miss today, tomorrow it happens no matter what. Second, set a physical reminder. Lay out your gym clothes the night before, put your book on the table, open your notebook with the pen beside it. Make it impossible to ignore. That way, when laziness shows up, your environment pushes you to act. And yes, I know, starting is the hardest part. So lower the entry barrier. Don't want to run for 30 minutes? Run for 5. Don't want to read 20 pages? Read 2. Don't want to meditate for 10 minutes? Try 1. The point isn't how much, it's keeping the habit alive. Because once you start, you almost always go further than you planned. One more thing. Stop asking yourself if you feel like doing it. Just do it. In most cases, motivation shows up after you begin, not before. It's like lighting a fire, the spark comes first, the warmth comes later. My friend, here's the truth. Greatness isn't measured by the days you were motivated. It's measured by the days you were tired, lazy, or uninspired, and did it anyway. That's what makes you unstoppable. So the next time your mind says, "I don't feel like it today," respond with, "Perfect. I didn't ask. Do it anyway. Do it tired. Do it in the rain. Do it with doubt. Do it with energy or without it." Because in this journey of forcing yourself to live like a Stoic, every action you take that doesn't depend on what's happening outside brings you one step closer to overcoming whatever life throws your way. Lesson 5. Peace isn't found, it's built by your actions. The Stoics never waited for calm to come from the outside. They knew that if they placed their peace in the hands of fate, they'd lose it the moment life threw its first punch. Epictetus put it simply: men are not disturbed by things, but by the view they take of them. He wasn't talking about resignation, he was talking about construction. Serenity isn't a gift, it's something you build every single day. Picture this: you're at a family dinner, everything's going fine until, in the middle of the conversation, you make a comment that someone misinterprets. An uncle responds with sarcasm, another one laughs. The chat moves on like nothing happened, but you can't let it go. You get home and your mind starts the trial. Why did I say that? They probably think I always say dumb things. I should have just kept quiet. Over and over you replay the scene, as if rewatching it might somehow rewrite it. The funny thing is, no one else thought it was a big deal. But your mind turned one tiny moment into a never-ending battle. That's what steals your peace. Not the dinner, not the comment, but the internal noise you never learned how to stop. Here's the uncomfortable truth: peace doesn't show up when your circumstances get better. Peace begins when you choose to act in spite of the chaos. If you can't find even a moment of calm in the middle of what you're living through now, you won't find it when things change either. Because peace isn't the result of your environment, it's the consequence of your inner discipline. Marcus Aurelius practiced this every night while writing his meditations. Surrounded by war, political tension, and constant pressure, he carved out a few minutes of silence to clear his mind. That simple daily gesture was how he created peace in the middle of the most chaotic empire in the world. If he, carrying that weight, could force himself to do it, what's stopping you? It's time to force yourself to act, and to act right now. When you get home, sit in silence for a few minutes. Close your eyes, breathe, and listen to the noise in your mind begin to settle. Don't underestimate that act. It's like letting the dirt in a muddy glass of water sink, so the water becomes clear again. That moment of stillness is the start of your peace. Then look at how you're spending your energy. If you're constantly cursing the traffic, your coworkers, or the weather, you're handing your serenity over to things you can't control. Do the opposite. Focus your energy on what does depend on you. Maybe you can't change your boss, but you can change how you respond. Maybe you can't stop the noise in your office, but you can choose what to do with your free time. Every choice is a brick in the foundation of your peace. And don't forget this: gratitude is another way to build calm. It's not about forcing yourself to see everything in a positive light. It's about training your attention to recognize what is already there. Something as simple as your child's smile, the warmth of your morning coffee, or 5 minutes of silence before bed. That shift in perception changes everything. Because when your perception changes, your peace changes too. My friend, stop waiting. If you keep believing peace will arrive on its own, you'll spend your whole life chasing a mirage. Peace isn't a prize you get at the end of the road. It's a decision you make every day. And if you truly want to change your life, you have to force yourself to act, to create moments of stillness, to let go of what you can't control, and to recognize what you already have. That's the Stoic way to live with calm, not because the world is easy, but because you've learned to master yourself. Now tell me, what disturbs your peace the most in daily life? And what do you do to get it back? Share your trick in the comments. Let's help each other learn new ways to build calm in the middle of the chaos. 6th lesson. Check your group. Do they lift you up or drag you down? Picture this. It's Friday night and finally your band gets to play at that downtown bar. You step on stage with your guitar, nervous but excited. The first chords start to ring out, and it's a disaster. The drummer comes in late, the bassist is out of tune, and the singer screams off key. You give it your all, try to hold the rhythm, even pull off a brilliant solo. But it doesn't matter. No matter what you do, the song still sounds awful because the rest aren't playing with you. Your circle works the same way. You can be disciplined, clear, and brave like a Stoic. But if you surround yourself with people who don't harmonize with you, who complain, who don't move forward, you'll end up feeling the same. Spending time with the wrong people is like trying to run through sand with a backpack and heavy boots. You move forward, sure, but slowly, with every step feeling twice as hard. And at the end of the race, you're not even sure it was worth it. Sometimes it seems easier to stay with the same old group, the same conversations, the same jokes, the same complaints. But that also leaves you stuck in the same place. Seneca warned us clearly, as long as we waste time with those who do not make us better, we ourselves stop improving. He lived by it. In his letters, he asked advice from those he admired and withdrew from those who just filled time with trivialities. He said the quality of the people around you shapes your character. And he was right. Because the discipline and clarity of a Stoic don't depend only on you, but also on the air you breathe around you. Tyler Cowen, an economist who now runs one of the most influential blogs in his field, learned this well. For years, he met with colleagues who only complained about the market and their bad luck. Until one day, walking out of yet another headache-inducing, idealist meeting, he thought, "What am I doing here?" He started seeking out meetings with people who challenged him, who pushed him to think, who didn't buy into his excuses. And that's when his career took off. He changed bands, and the music finally started to sound right. I bet you felt this too. Imagine, you go out on a Friday with your coworkers. Everyone starts bad-mouthing the boss, retelling the same stories from years ago, while the table fills with empty bottles and empty promises of next time, for real. You check your watch, force a smile, and think, this is why I came. The next week you say no. Instead, you accept an invitation from a colleague to check out a debate club. There, between arguments and laughter, you meet people who later team up with you on a project that actually excites you. In just 7 days, you feel the air is different. So, my friend, are you ready to make your band play in tune? Here are 3 steps to start choosing your people wisely, and in 1 week, feel unrecognizable. First, notice how you feel after spending time with someone. If every encounter leaves you drained, dull, ready to crawl into bed and do nothing else, put that relationship on pause. You don't need to announce it or fight. Just take a little distance and see how your energy changes. And yes, I know, sometimes you can't. Sometimes you have to endure someone because their family or the rest of your friends don't feel the same way. But here's a trick. When that person starts in with their usual complaints or bad vibes, imagine you're tuning your instrument and can't hear the background noise. Or if you dare, change the subject with humor. Hey, tell me something good that happened to you today instead. You'll see that some go quiet, and the ones who matter will stay. Next, identify one person who inspires you, someone who, even if they intimidate you a little, makes you want to be your best. Invite them for coffee or a walk. They could be someone you already know, or even someone you follow online. Most of the time, they'll say yes. Third, make plans with the ones who actually add to your life. Use that magic phrase, "Why don't we do this more often?" It can be simple, a walk in the park, a quiet dinner, even a small joint project. What matters is that they remind you what you're capable of being. My friend, don't settle for playing in a band that's out of tune. No, you deserve better. If you want to be unrecognizable this week, pick bandmates who make you sound like never before. Because when your surroundings change, you change too. And sometimes it only takes 7 days to start hearing a whole new melody in your life. And now, don't go just yet, because there's one last piece to your total transformation, the one that ties everything you've learned together and pushes you to the next level. Are you ready? Lesson 7. Let go of the battle you've already lost. Picture yourself pushing a door with all your strength. You lean in, sweat dripping, muscles shaking, but the door doesn't budge an inch. You get frustrated, thinking maybe you just need to push harder. So you try again, angrier this time. Still nothing. Until someone walks by and calmly says, "Hey, that door opens the other way." And suddenly, everything makes sense. It was never about force. It was about direction. That's the trap of fighting battles that are already lost. Wasting the best of you on a fight you'll never win. Think about it. How many times have you found yourself stuck pushing doors that won't open anymore? A job you lost that you still dwell on months later. A broken relationship you keep going back to, waiting for signs that never come. That mistake from the past you replay in your head, like you could undo it by regretting it harder. All of these battles have something in common. No matter how much energy you pour into them, the outcome is already set. Thomas Edison lived this firsthand. One December night, a fire completely destroyed his factory. In just a few hours, years of inventions, machines, and dreams were reduced to ash. Imagine being in his shoes, watching flames consume everything you built. Most people would have broken down. But Edison, instead of collapsing, let go of that battle right then and there. He summed it up in a line that feels like a slap of reality. Now, we can start over. He didn't cling to the smoke of the past. He looked forward to what he could still build. That choice, that ability to let go, is what allowed him to get back up and keep creating. See it now? That's the line between being stuck and being free. And my friend, that freedom is a lot closer than you think. Because training your mind like a Stoic means just that. Living with clarity, not wasting your strength on impossible battles, saving your energy for what can be moved. Epictetus made it brutally clear. Do not seek for events to happen as you wish, but wish for them to happen as they do, and your life will go smoothly. Harsh, I know. We love to think we can bend reality to our will. But when you fight the inevitable, the only thing you lose is your peace. Acceptance isn't giving up. It's the smartest move you can make. It lets you hold on to your strength for what really matters. And you don't have to go as far back as Edison or Epictetus to see it. Think of something more every day. You break up with someone, and instead of focusing on yourself, you spend sleepless nights checking their social media. You look for clues, analyze who liked their posts, read into their silence. What does that get you? Nothing, except deeper wounds. Every minute spent there is like pouring gasoline on a fire that already burned out. It doesn't help you heal, it slows you down. Clinging to what you can't change is like dropping an anchor in the middle of a storm. You think it'll keep you safe, but really it just drags you down faster. True courage isn't about holding on no matter what. It's about letting go so you can move toward calmer waters. So, how do you do that practically? Let me spell it out. First, identify the situation that still takes up space in your mind even though it has no solution. Write it down. Name it. Maybe you're still going over an argument you had with a friend months ago, replaying everything you should have said. Or maybe you're still angry at your ex-boss even though you don't work there anymore. Or you might still be blaming yourself for missing a chance that, realistically, isn't coming back. Second, make a conscious decision. What are you going to stop doing starting today? Maybe it's checking that profile. Maybe it's repeating dead-end arguments in your head. Maybe it's chasing something that doesn't exist anymore. And third, replace that habit with something that brings you back to life. Learn a new skill, pick up a forgotten hobby, spend real time with friends, or take care of your body. Letting go isn't enough. You have to fill that space with something that pulls you forward. Because here's the key. When you let go of what's already lost, you stop forcing yourself to fight battles that only exist in your head. And in that moment, without even realizing it, you're getting rid of 95% of your problems. How? Simple. You're no longer wasting energy on closed doors, on people who won't change, on stories that only wear you down. When you live with Stoic clarity, you understand that your energy is too valuable to throw away on pointless fights. Every time you choose to let go, you're training your mind to endure whatever comes, to overcome the majority of your struggles without depending on what's happening outside. Lesson 8. Use the hits to make yourself stronger. Picture an ordinary day. A teenage girl gets on a bus, school bag on her shoulder, shy smile on her face. Just another morning, until in a split second her life changes forever. A man with a gun walks up and shoots, trying to silence her voice. That girl was Malala Yousafzai, and all she had done was defend the right of girls to go to school. For anyone else, that kind of blow would have been enough to give up. She could have stayed hidden, afraid to ever speak up again. But no, she turned that bullet into a megaphone, into a cause that now inspires millions. Do you see how powerful a blow can be when you decide not to let it destroy you, but to let it transform you? That's the real lesson. Life will hit you. That part's not up to you. What is up to you is what you do with every blow. Do you crawl away, or do you stand back up, stronger than before? That's the difference between someone who barely survives and someone who grows with every hardship. During his campaign against the northern tribes, Marcus Aurelius spent long, cold nights filled with bad news, deserters, outbreaks of disease, betrayal back at the palace. He didn't have a cozy office or time to complain. He had a tent, a lamp, and his journal. In it, he reminded himself that a noble man should be like a rock that the waves crash against. The foam hits, roars, rises up. But the rock stands firm. He didn't write to impress anyone. He wrote to train himself. Every hit of the day became material to sharpen his character. And what an emperor did, a slave also practiced. Epictetus was born in chains. He endured humiliation, punishment, a leg permanently damaged. Anyone would have said, "It's over." But not him. He chose something else. He chose to turn each wound into discipline. That's why he kept repeating, "It's not events that crush us. It's the story we tell ourselves about them." His scars weren't excuses. They were reminders. If he couldn't change the outside world, he'd make the inner world unbreakable. Now think about something closer to home. Imagine you run a business and lose your most important client. That one client made up nearly half your revenue, and overnight, it's gone. The first hit is brutal. You wonder how you're going to recover. It feels like all your effort just vanished. But if you choose to see it differently, there's your chance to study what went wrong, diversify your income, and strengthen what's already working. Instead of staying stuck in regret, you can act like a Stoic. You can use that loss as a springboard to build a stronger version of your project. Of course, it doesn't happen overnight. This takes training. How? Let's say you just lost that big client. Your first instinct is to sit there in frustration, rehash how unfair it was, maybe blame the other side. Stop. Breathe. Write down exactly what happened. That's your first entry in your resilience manual. Were there signs they weren't fully satisfied? Did you let communication slip? Were you relying too much on just one contract? Writing it down forces you to see clearly instead of drowning in emotion. Next, step 2. Turn that lesson into a concrete action. If the issue was overdependence on one client, your next task is to diversify. If it was poor communication, define a new way to follow up with your clients. Every fall leaves behind a map, so you don't trip the same way next time. And the most important part, don't wait until you feel ready to apply what you've learned. Fear is always going to be there. If you wait for it to go away, you'll never take the next step. Start as soon as the lesson is clear. Even if your voice shakes, even if you're unsure. That's real training because no muscle grows without weight. My friend, I want you to see it this way. Every hardship is like a private class designed just for you. You don't choose the teacher or the schedule or the subject, but if you decide to show up for that class, you walk away with knowledge no one can take from you. And over time, that knowledge makes you invincible. Someone who doesn't need life to be easy in order to live in peace. Think about steel. It's not forged with soft touches or in a quiet room. It's forged with hits, hammer strikes, and intense heat. And it's exactly that process that gives it its strength, what makes it indestructible. The same goes for you. Every hit you take, if you choose it wisely, can become the fire that tempers you and makes you stronger than before. 9th lesson. Pause, breathe, and choose your response. Picture this. You're at work and someone hits you right where it hurts. That's impossible. You have no idea what you're doing. In less than a second, your blood rushes to your face, your hands clench. You're already about to launch into a full-on soap opera finale, with shouting, dagger eyes, and words you didn't even know you knew. And yes, you let it all out, every last word. And when you're done, the silence weighs heavier than the original comment. Because now it's too late and you regret it. Now picture it again. The exact same scene, the same words. Only this time you stop for 3 seconds. You take a breath, and you respond with a calm question, almost with a faint smile. Why do you think it's impossible? Nothing more. The other person freezes. You stay whole, and the whole room doesn't go up in flames. Maybe now you're thinking that wouldn't work, that it's too simple to be true. But no, my friend, it's not silly. It actually works. Lori Gottlieb, therapist and author of Maybe You Should Talk to Someone, explains it on her podcast. She says that when you get used to inserting a small space between stimulus and response, not only do your relationships improve, so does your self-esteem. Because you stop being a puppet that reacts as soon as someone pushes a button, and you become someone who calmly decides what to do. And it's not just a modern psychologist thing. Epictetus already knew it centuries ago. He said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you interpret it that affects you." In those 3 seconds, you decide whether you're the master of yourself or a slave to your emotions. No, it's not easy, especially when the words sting and the urge to explode is right on the tip of your tongue. But right there, in that pause, is where your transformation begins. If you can train that pause for 7 days, my friend, you won't even recognize yourself. Not because the world changes, but because you stop catching fire at every little spark. And believe me, people notice. So, are you ready to turn those 3 seconds into your superpower, like a true Stoic? Here are 3 ways to train it this week and see results. First, when you feel your body tense up, raise your eyebrows just slightly and breathe through your nose. Yes, that's simple. This little gesture tricks your brain and calms you down. Then, try the box breathing technique some soldiers use to stay calm before going into combat. Inhale for 4 seconds, hold for 4, exhale for 4, and wait another 4. You can do it discreetly while someone else is talking. For example, in a meeting, while the boss dishes out criticism, you're already controlling your breath. And when it's your turn, you respond with firmness, not anger. That's exactly what Epictetus recommended. Retreat within yourself. And this kind of breathing is a perfect way to do it. And yes, you might be thinking maybe breathing alone won't cut it. So here's another trick. Count to 5 in another language, even if your accent is terrible. Uno, zwei, trois, cuatro. Whatever. Your brain can't stay mad and translate at the same time. If you do it in the middle of an argument, it might even draw a smile from the other person. Finally, before opening your mouth, ask yourself, how would this sound if I said it on a podcast? If it seems too crazy or embarrassing to record, don't say it. Stay quiet, breathe, and choose a better response. Big explosions always start with tiny sparks. If you want to be unrecognizable in just 7 days, become that person who knows how to put out the spark before it burns everything down. That calm not only changes the way others see you, more than anything, it changes the way you see yourself. And now tell me, when was the last time you took a breath before responding, and it saved you? Share it in the comments. Your experience could inspire and help someone who's still learning to control their spark. Or just write, "Today I breathe before I speak," to remind yourself that calm begins with a single breath. Lesson 10. A weak body drags down a weak mind. Have you ever asked yourself what the connection is between your body and your mind? You might think they're 2 separate things, the physical on one side, the mental on the other. But the Stoics left us with an idea that might surprise you. If you abandon your body, you're abandoning your mind too. Picture this. You start the day feeling heavy, foggy, unmotivated. What happens next? Your mind gets cloudy, decisions become harder, your motivation fades. It's not black magic, it's just a simple connection. Your body is the foundation everything else stands on. Really, think about it. How do you start your mornings? Do you get up feeling light, energized, ready to act? Or do you snooze the alarm over and over, drag yourself to the kitchen and rely on coffee to do the job your body no longer can? That start sets the tone for everything that follows. If your very first move is already a defeat, what can you expect from the rest of the day? The Stoics didn't care about having a perfect physique or chasing appearances. What they wanted was for the body to be an ally of virtue, not a roadblock. In their writings, training, movement, modest eating, and rest were seen as essential practices, not for pleasure, but because they laid the groundwork for inner strength. A strong mind in a weak body is like a gleaming sword sheathed in cardboard. Sooner or later it rusts. Think about how your average day feels when you don't sleep well. Your body complains, your head is foggy, you're irritable, and everything seems harder than it really is. That's exactly what the Stoics warned us about. You can't aim for inner mastery if you've let go of the basics. Now picture two paths. On the first, you keep doing what you've always done. You wake up tired, drag yourself through the day, need caffeine just to stay upright, and fall into bed feeling like nothing moved forward. On the second path, you make one small change, a 10-minute walk, drinking a bit more water, going to bed half an hour earlier. Doesn't sound extreme, right? But the difference is huge. Suddenly, you feel more energy, more clarity, more drive to act. Your mind steps up because your body stops holding it back. There are studies showing that regular movement doesn't just help your physical health. It improves mental clarity, memory, and decision-making too. And no, we're not talking about training like a pro athlete. We're talking about something as simple as walking, stretching, moving your body a little bit every day. In the end, the mind performs better when the body performs better. So here's a simple challenge for you. Tomorrow, before you check your phone, go for a 10-minute walk. That's it. No music, no distractions, just walk. Pay attention to how your body feels afterward. Then do it again the next day, and the day after. I'm not asking you to run a marathon or crush yourself at the gym. Just start moving your body as a sign of respect toward yourself. That consistency, even if it seems small, is the start of a discipline that spreads into everything else. But don't fool yourself. The excuses will show up. I don't have time, I can't today, I'll start tomorrow. And every time you listen to those excuses and obey them, you lose another battle against yourself. So be careful, because if you don't act quickly, your brain will take over and stop you with the same old justifications. And this is something the Stoics practiced constantly. Immediate action breaks the cycle of laziness and trains the will. Seneca said that if you neglect your body, your mind weakens too, and when your mind weakens, everything else falls apart. That's why he led by example. He practiced simple exercises, short runs, walks, jumps, lifting light weights. Nothing extreme, just what was necessary to keep the body awake and strong. He also recommended cold baths to build character and a modest diet to avoid sluggishness. He wasn't chasing luxury or appearance. He was preparing himself. In the end, your body is the first test of discipline. Every morning it puts you to the test and you choose. Give in to comfort or train your will. A choice as small as getting up with the first alarm or moving for 10 minutes might seem like nothing, but it can be the beginning of real change. Because when you learn to master your body, your mind starts to listen. That's what the Stoics understood, that caring for your body isn't vanity, it's responsibility. And that responsibility is what gives you clarity, energy, and strength to carry everything else. So now you know. Force yourself to move your body today, even if it's just for a few minutes. Start small, but start now. And tell me in the comments, what's going to be your first step to taking care of your body? If you're not sure what to write, drop this as your commitment. Today I act and I move. Lesson 11. Your worst excuse lives inside you. Let me paint you a scene, one you probably know better than you'd like to admit. The alarm goes off in the morning. Not for the first time. It's been ringing for half an hour now. You open one eye and think about everything you said you'd do today. Get up early, go for a run. Finally make progress on that project you've been putting off. But instead, you swipe your finger and silence your phone. You roll over, convince yourself that 5 more minutes won't hurt. And by the time you realize it, it's late. You're rushing out the door and your day starts the same way as always, winging it in a hurry. with that bitter taste of letting yourself down. Again. That's the fight you lose the most. Not against your boss, not the economy, not other people. You lose it every time you listen to that voice inside you, the one that tells you to wait, that there's still time, that now's not the moment. That voice that pretends to protect you, but really just keeps you exactly where you are. And if you think about it, the Stoics never talked about conquering armies or defeating external enemies. They talked about the hardest battle of all, the one you fight within yourself. Epictetus made it clear in his teachings. No one is free unless they master themselves. And mastering yourself doesn't mean doing whatever you want. It means doing what you know you should do, even when you don't feel like it. That's discipline. That's freedom. This is where excuses are born. Epictetus taught that we don't suffer because of what happens to us. We suffer because of what we tell ourselves about what happens to us. And that's exactly what you do every time you choose not to act. You turn laziness into a reasonable argument. You dress fear up as caution. You disguise inaction as wisdom. Your excuses aren't facts, they're interpretations. And when you treat them like truth, all you're doing is chaining yourself down. Now imagine another scene. You're sitting in front of your laptop. It's open. Right there is a blank file, where your project, your book, your business plan, or your resume should be. You stare at the screen. The blinking cursor feels like it's daring you to move. But instead of writing, you open another tab. Scroll through social media, watch a video. You convince yourself, I'm not ready yet. Minutes go by, then hours, and in the end, you close your laptop with nothing to show for it. Once again, you didn't lose to the world. You lost to yourself. The Stoics didn't leave any room for these mental traps. Marcus Aurelius reminded us that your life is shaped by the thoughts you repeat every day. If your mind is full of fear, your life becomes fear. If your mind is filled with excuses, your life becomes a collection of excuses. The question is simple. What kind of thoughts are you feeding yourself each day? Even modern motivational tools line up with what the ancients said. Mel Robbins talks about the 5-second rule. When you have an idea, an urge, or a decision you know you should act on, you count down from 5 to 1 and move before your brain has time to sabotage you. Because if you wait, your mind will stop you. Funny, isn't it? 2,000 years ago, Epictetus was already saying that it's not the events themselves that matter, but what we think about them. And now behavioral science proves the same. Your excuses show up in seconds, and if you don't act fast, they win. So what can you do to start breaking this cycle? Here's something simple but powerful. Grab a piece of paper and write down 3 excuses you use every week. Don't sugarcoat them. Write them exactly as they are. I don't have time. I don't know how. It's too late to start. Read them out loud. Listen to how they sound. Ask yourself if they're really true, or if they're just fear in disguise. Most of the time, it's not that you don't have time. It's that you don't prioritize. It's not that you don't know how. It's that you'd rather stay comfortable than try. And it's not that it's too late. It's that you don't want to face the fact that the perfect moment will never come. The next step is to pick one of those excuses, just one, and destroy it today. Not tomorrow, not Monday, not next month, today. If you think you don't have time, carve out 30 minutes right now and do that thing you've been avoiding. If you think you don't know enough, start anyway and learn as you go. If you're telling yourself it's not the right time, remember, it never will be. That's the Stoic spirit. Action over paralysis, discipline over excuse. Lesson 12. Use every blow as a step. My friend, if every time life slaps you, all you do is focus on the mark it leaves, you'll end up covered in scars like an unfinished painting. But if you use them well, those marks can turn into something beautiful. Like a Picasso, messy, unique, impossible to ignore. And since you're here, why not turn each blow into a step towards something better? Because sooner or later they come. That feeling that everything's going wrong, that the universe has perfect aim and hits you right when you're most tired. You can't avoid it. And of course it hurts. But you know what? Every blow can be a step if you learn where to put your foot. Failure is like dominoes. They fall one after another, making a racket, leaving a mess. But they also clearly show you where not to go again. Sometimes they even form a whole new path, if you're brave enough to really look at it. That's why Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." He wasn't talking about ignoring pain or pretending it doesn't hurt. He was saying that precisely what's blocking you right now is exactly the material you need to keep moving forward. If you don't believe me, think about the story of Benjamin Hardy. This psychologist and author was about to finish his PhD when he was told he couldn't give a TEDx talk at the very event he was helping organize. Of course it crushed him. But instead of locking himself away to sulk, he put together a small online workshop with the ideas he'd planned to present. Within a year, over 100,000 people had seen it. That no that hurt so much ended up being the first yes to something far bigger than he'd imagined. And what about you? How can you use each blow as a step? Picture this. It's a Tuesday afternoon. You're at the gym right after work, still wearing a half-wrinkled t-shirt and carrying a water bottle with a peeling sticker. You've been crossing paths for weeks with that girl who always does squats in the corner and smiles when she sees you. Today, you finally work up the courage, walk over just as she's adjusting her weights and say a little clumsily, "Hey, would you like to grab a drink sometime?" She looks at you, smiles kindly, and says, "Oh, you're really sweet, but I'm already seeing someone." Your face turns red, you swallow hard, pretend you're going for more water, and then you pass by a sign that says, "Boxing classes Tuesday and Thursday." Without thinking much, you sign up that very night. And the next week, in the middle of class, between jabs and laughter, you end up sparring with a partner who says, "You're new, right? But you've got good style." And there, among sweat and gloves, you realize that rejection pushed you straight into something better. Because that's how it works. If you use the blows in your favor, even when you don't feel like it, you can start to look unrecognizable in just a week. So, my friend, next time, write down exactly what hurt on a note, with all the details, but finish the sentence with, "And I'm still here." You'll see how it changes what you feel. Then, I dare you to tell your failure to a friend like it's a funny story, just to take away its power. And also, set yourself a small challenge you can complete that same week to keep moving, even if it's just fixing that wobbly chair in your kitchen, or finally sending that email you've been putting off. The slaps hurt, yes, but no one becomes unrecognizable by staying on the floor. Every blow you use as a step lifts you another rung. And if you choose to act like a Stoic and refuse to let the blows knock you down, in 7 days you too can start looking in the mirror and seeing someone who doesn't look like they did before. Lesson 13. Solitude is your secret training ground. You walk into a room deep inside the imperial palace of Rome. Outside, you hear the voices of soldiers, the murmurs of senators, the hurried steps of servants. Everything is noise and movement. But the moment you cross that door, the atmosphere changes. Absolute silence. And there, seated at a simple table, is Marcus Aurelius. No advisors, no flattering courtiers, no generals awaiting orders, just a scroll and a pen in his hand. That was his refuge, his place of retreat. While ruling the most powerful empire on earth, he forced himself to find moments of solitude, not to escape, but to build calm in the midst of chaos. In those pages, he poured out his fears, his doubts, his most intimate thoughts. And there he wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter retreat than in his own soul." Now step out of that room and back into your own life. Ask yourself, what do you do when silence finds you? Do you accept it, or do you drown it out with noise just to avoid hearing yourself? Put yourself in this situation. It's Saturday night, you're home alone. You check your phone, no messages. You open social media. Everyone else is out, traveling, surrounded by people. You close the screen, and silence hits you like a wave. You feel the weight of loneliness, as if it's a punishment you didn't ask for. But here's the twist. Solitude isn't your enemy. The problem isn't being alone. It's what you tell yourself in that silence. Schopenhauer said it bluntly. Many fear solitude because they can't stand their own company. And he was right. We surround ourselves with noise because facing ourselves is uncomfortable. We'd rather fill the room with background music, endless notifications, mindless chatter, anything but sit face to face with our own thoughts. But right there, in that space we avoid, lies the key. What you avoid the most is usually what you need the most. Think of it as training. Solitude is that invisible gym where you don't lift weights, but you build character. If you can be with yourself without feeling empty, you become unshakable, because you no longer choose company out of fear, but from a place of strength. You no longer accept just any relationship to cover up the silence, because you've already learned to enjoy your own presence. How do you train that? It doesn't mean isolating yourself or living like a hermit. It starts with small actions that turn solitude into practice. Plan a date with yourself. Yes, you heard that right. Go to that restaurant you like and enjoy every bite, without the shield of your phone. Savor the food as if it were your first time tasting it. Or go for a walk. No headphones. Listen to your footsteps. Feel the air on your skin. Notice the details you usually miss when you're distracted. Or try going to the movies alone. Pick the film you want, buy your ticket, and sit down without caring what anyone thinks. You'll realize that no one's paying attention to you as much as you think they are. And my friend, I want to challenge you. This week, do something alone that you'd normally only do with someone else. Go to that favorite restaurant and sit down to eat without looking at your phone. Or go to the movies by yourself. Choose the film you want and enjoy it without needing anyone there to validate the moment. Or cook yourself a full dinner, put on background music, set the table like you're expecting guests, and make yourself the guest of honor. Do it even if it feels awkward at first, even if you're worried about what people might think. Spoiler, no one's thinking about you nearly as much as you believe. And here's something else that will help you. Write just for yourself. Not on social media, not on WhatsApp, not for anyone to read, just you and the page. Pour out what you think, what you feel, what's bothering you. It's the same thing Marcus Aurelius did in his meditations. By writing it down, what once seemed like a huge monster in your head becomes something you can look at, understand, and shrink down to its real size. Like murky water settling, clarity comes with stillness. My friend, if you truly want to become your best self, you must go through this training. You can learn discipline, build confidence, manage your time. But if you can't stand your own company, it will all eventually fall apart. Solitude isn't a punishment. It's your chance to know yourself, to strengthen yourself, and to choose freely. So next time you find yourself in silence, don't run. Stay. Listen. Force yourself to act, not even when no one's watching. Because in that quiet space, the one most people fear, the Stoics found their greatest strength. And if they could do it while ruling over an empire, then you can do it too, right here in your own life. Lesson 14. Remember, everything has an expiration date. Picture an hourglass. From the moment you flip it, the sand starts to fall, and there's no way to stop it. You can cover it with your hand, shake it, even pretend you don't see it. It doesn't matter. Time keeps running, and every grain that drops is a moment of your life that won't come back. It's harsh, but it's true. We struggle to accept it because we'd rather believe there's always more time. Time to make amends, to start that project, to say what we feel. But the hourglass doesn't make deals with anyone. Have you ever walked past a place from your childhood and been shocked to see it's gone? A shop closed down, a park under construction, maybe even someone who's no longer around. That gut punch of reality reminds us, nothing stays the same. And as scary as that may be, it's also an opportunity. Because once you truly understand that everything comes to an end, you stop taking what's in front of you for granted. Marcus Aurelius understood this in his daily life. He didn't see death as a punishment, but as a silent teacher, reminding him that every day was a gift. He wrote, "Don't act as if you're going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you, As long as you're alive, as long as it's possible, be good. And that's the key. It's not about living in fear, it's about living with urgency. Not rushing, but living with purpose. More recently, Oliver Burkeman put it another way in his book 4,000 Weeks. Our lifespan, when measured in weeks, is short. But realizing this isn't depressing, it's freeing. Because it forces you to prioritize, to stop wasting time on empty arguments or meaningless tasks, and focus instead on what truly matters. That clarity is what turns an ordinary life into a conscious one. Maybe you'll get it even better with a simple example. You've been meaning to call a friend you haven't spoken to in years. You keep saying, "I'll do it next week." Then one day, you pass by the cafe where you used to meet, and it's closed. You stand there, staring at a for sale sign, realizing that time passed, and you didn't move. You didn't just lose a place. You lost moments that won't come back. That's why, if you truly want to live with the discipline and clarity of a Stoic, you can't keep acting like life is endless. My friend, this reminder isn't here to make you feel sad. It's here to wake you up, to help you realize that every morning you open your eyes is a loan you don't know how long you'll keep. And with that in mind, are you really going to keep spending your days on things that lead nowhere? Here's something simple you can do. Print out a blank calendar, one that shows the full month. Look at it seriously, like it's a map of your life. At the top, write down 3 things you've been putting off for far too long. They don't need to be big dreams. Maybe it's calling someone you miss, writing a few pages, or going for a walk somewhere new. Write them down, no excuses. Then grab a pen and choose the exact day you'll do each of them. Don't write someday. Write it clearly. Tuesday the 15th. Thursday the 22nd. Putting it on paper turns a wish into a commitment. Now look at that same calendar and cross out at least one block of time you know you're wasting. That hour of scrolling when you get home. That Sunday afternoon where you do nothing, but don't even rest. Cross it out and replace it with something that adds value. You'll be surprised what happens. When you see it on paper, life stops feeling like a rough draft and starts becoming a conscious choice. And believe me, that's Stoic discipline. Not letting your days slip away like sand, but deciding how to use every grain before it falls. And if you've made it this far, listen closely, because what comes next is even more important. You're about to learn the final key, the ultimate technique that can push you to live like a Stoic even in your toughest moments. And trust me, you won't want to miss it, because it might be the difference between staying stuck and finally taking real control of your life. Lesson 15. Don't react to the first hit. Something interesting happened to me recently on the subway. A guy was standing there, pretty serious looking, when someone accidentally bumped into him. It was a rough movement, sure, but nothing serious. In a split second, the guy spun around, tensed up, and started yelling like he'd been attacked. Everyone turned to look, uncomfortable. And then we saw the full picture. The person who bumped into him was on crutches. They'd simply lost their balance. There was no bad intent, no offense. But it was too late. The guy had already exploded, making a whole angry scene. And the worst part? He didn't even apologize once he realized the truth. He just stood there the whole ride, muttering insults like he was still convinced he was right. That moment hit me hard. Not reacting is far more powerful than reacting without thinking, because in that instant, he wasn't in control of himself. He was a slave to that first spark of anger. What could have been a brief, awkward moment turned into a whole ride filled with tension, for him and for everyone around him. I bet that guy had never read Marcus Aurelius. This emperor who dealt with real enemies, palace intrigue, war, and betrayal, still managed not to lash out at the first hit. That's why he said, "The best revenge is not to be like your enemy." Brilliant, isn't it? While most people think strength is hitting back, the Stoic knows real strength is in choosing not to play that game. The real battle is internal. Is it worth losing my peace over this? And if the answer is no, then silence, or a pause, is the best victory. But you don't need to be in a war zone or ruling an empire to snap like that. It happens right at home. Picture this. Your partner casually asks, "Are you going to be much longer?" Sounds innocent, right? But your tired, defensive mind takes it as criticism. And before you even think, you fire back. "You're always rushing me." A poisoned dart, launched without a second thought. Minutes later, when you find out they just wanted to plan dinner with you, the damage is done. A reaction that could have been avoided with just a couple seconds of pause. Reacting to the first hit is like playing a video game and smashing every button the moment an enemy shows up. You burn out, lose precision, and end up defeated by your own chaos. What would someone with Stoic mental discipline do? They wouldn't mash the buttons. They'd wait, observe, and respond with clarity. My friend, this is the perfect time to learn how to respond with the calm of a Stoic. And believe me when I say, 95% of your problems will disappear like magic. Wondering how? There are some simple tricks to train this. And I'm not talking about abstract philosophy. I mean tools you can actually use in your daily life. For example, try mentally counting to 5 before you respond when something bothers you. Those 5 seconds are a lifesaver. They give your brain time to see the whole picture, not just that first spark. Another useful habit? Shift your focus. If someone does something that irritates you, instead of obsessing over the action, consider the context. Ask yourself, did this person really mean to offend me, or are they just having a rough day? That question instantly changes the story you're telling yourself and lowers the tension right away. And here's one more trick that sounds silly but really works. Smile, or take a deep breath if the situation allows. Not to be polite, but because your body takes that gesture as a signal. No threat. We're fine. It's amazing how something so small can shut down the whole chain of automatic reactions. Know what happens when you start using these pauses? Your whole life shifts. You realize that most arguments, anger, and misunderstandings that drain your energy were never real. They were just rushed responses. And little by little, you start living with the discipline of a Stoic. Strong, clear, and not dependent on what's going on outside. Because when you're in control of yourself during those critical few seconds, the rest of life becomes a lot easier to handle. Lesson 16. Act like your best self, starting now. Let me ask you an uncomfortable question. If someone followed you around all day with a camera, and that video was screened in a theater under the title, "The Best Version of You," would you like what you saw? Picture it. You, the moment the alarm goes off, Monday face, hair a mess, scrolling your phone without energy. Later, at work, just doing the bare minimum, waiting for the day to be over. And in the evening, putting off everything you said you'd do when you have more time. Is that really the movie you'd want people to watch? It's funny, my friend. So many people wait to be the ideal version of themselves before acting like it. As if one day, out of nowhere, a magical light will shine on them and suddenly make them disciplined, clear, and brave. Waiting to feel ready to act is like waiting for your car to be perfectly clean before starting a road trip. It never happens. Start the trip with the car dirty, but start now. Your best self isn't some faraway destination or a title someone hands you. It's a suit that's already hanging in your closet. You just have to put it on. No one's going to dress you. And if you're still struggling to believe it, listen to Marcus Aurelius. He didn't sit around writing theories about what it would be like to be a good emperor. He ruled through plagues and wars, making tough decisions every day. That's why he wrote, "Stop debating what a good man should be. Be one. Today." That's simple. He doesn't say tomorrow, not when everything's perfect. Today. And you know who understood this perfectly? James Clear, author of Atomic Habits. When he started, he was nobody. No books, no publishing contracts, no massive audience. But he decided to write daily on his blog as if he were already a recognized author. He didn't behave like a timid beginner. He acted like a professional from day one. Little by little, that attitude attracted opportunities until he sold millions of copies. He didn't wait for the suit to be ironed. He put it on and stepped outside. And this works in the little things too. On an ordinary Monday, your boss asks for a volunteer to lead a presentation. You think, "I'm no good at this," but something inside says, "Put it on, now." You raise your hand, prepare your slides carefully, even rehearse in front of the mirror and throw in a bad joke to break the ice. On Friday, when you finish, people applaud and someone whispers, "You were born for this." And you smile because you know it was precisely that act of doing it before you felt ready that made you unrecognizable. So if you want to wear that suit, here's how. Start today. First, dress like someone who already has the life they want. Even if no one else notices, you will. It's not about spending money. Just choose something that makes you feel steadier, more confident, more like the main character in your own story. Then, in the little decisions you face every day, ask yourself, what would my ideal self do? And act accordingly, even in the tiniest things. What to eat, how to respond when someone irritates you, whether to train or stay on the couch. Those tiny choices are what build the character. And finally, here's an exercise for you. Write a letter to yourself. From the future. Imagine you're you, a year from now, writing to thank you for starting today. Thanking you for daring to be who you wanted to be without waiting for an invitation. Keep that letter and read it whenever laziness tries to sneak in. My friend, no one is going to give you permission to be your best self. No one is going to hang a medal around your neck before you start running. But if you decide to put on that suit and walk with discipline, clarity, and courage, even when you don't feel like it, I promise that in just 7 days, you won't even recognize yourself. Trust me, start today. And a week from now, you'll look in the mirror and think, this is me. 17th lesson. Stay silent and you'll gain power. You're at a birthday party with your lifelong friends. There's music, laughter, someone's handing out cake, and you're in the middle of telling a story about something that happened at work. Then that friend drops a comment. It's not a harmless joke, it's a disguised jab. Work? Do you even know what that is? You hear it, your face flushes, and your first instinct is to fire back. You throw out a sharp response, and what was a relaxed get-together turns tense. The conversation gets awkward. People avoid eye contact, and you walk away feeling like you lost control. Because yes, the comment was out of line. No one's denying that. But in the end, who walked away with their peace shattered? You. Who stayed up all night replaying it in your head thinking of what you should have said? Also you. That's the trap. When you react instantly and with anger, you don't fix anything. You just hand your power over to the other person. Right in that moment, you should remember something Seneca once said. It is the mark of a wise person to remain silent when it is not the time to speak. Picture Seneca on Twitter. Someone tweets at him, "Your letters are boring, just cheap sermons." What do you think he'd do? Fire off a 20-tweet rebuttal? Of course not. He'd probably close the app, pour himself a tea, and go back to writing to Lucilius. That silence is the win. Because winning doesn't always mean striking back. Sometimes winning means not even stepping into the ring. And no, silence isn't weakness. Silence is strategy. Staying quiet when your pride is screaming to speak is like walking away from a fight that's not worth it. It gives you perspective, keeps you out of pointless drama, and reminds you that your peace is worth more than winning a verbal exchange. A true Stoic understands this. Real power doesn't lie in the comeback. It lies in mastering the impulse. So how can you apply this in daily life? Let me give you 3 Stoic tools you can carry in your back pocket for whenever you need them. First, the graceful exit. Someone at work makes a sarcastic jab, or a stranger says something rude in public. You respond with a simple, "I'll keep that in mind, thanks," and move on. No blow-up, no bottling it up. You drop it right there and keep going. It's like Epictetus said, insults only hurt if you choose to accept them. You choose not to. And in doing so, you protect your energy. Second, the monosyllables. You're at a family gathering and that one relative keeps poking, looking for an argument. You could take the bait and ruin the whole dinner, or you could answer with a yeah, maybe, and let them run out of steam. Sounds silly, but it's a silent shield. Seneca would have loved it. Picture it, someone snaps at him and he just replies, There's no better way to disarm someone looking for a fight than refusing to fight. Third, the confusion move. Here's where humor becomes your weapon. Someone mocks you, and instead of clapping back, you say something completely absurd like, as my uncle used to say, the early bird catches Tuesday. Total nonsense. They're thrown off, confused, and you walk away cool and unfazed. It's genius because it breaks their script. They expected your anger, not your creativity. All of these strategies have one thing in common. They put you back in control. The goal isn't to humiliate the other person. It's to protect your peace, to not give away your calm over a comment that, if you really think about it, doesn't deserve that much room in your head. Because in the end, my friend, this is what we've been building together. When you choose to live like a Stoic, you choose not to depend on what's happening outside. Not on words, not on mockery, not on applause. Only on your own discipline and mental clarity. That's where your real power lives. So, next time someone throws a jab or tries to get under your skin, remember, your silence might be louder than anything you could say. And now I ask you, what technique are you going to try next time someone pushes your buttons? Write it in the comments or simply say, my silence is my power. Lesson number 18. Stop being a slave to your mind. My friend, think about this. Your mind is like a radio host who never turns off the mic. Some days it plays your favorite song, but on others, it floods you with noise, comments you never asked for that. Without realizing it, you start to believe. Most people try to shut that voice up by force or run away from it. But a Stoic learns to handle the dial. They know when to turn up the volume on what makes them stronger and when to silence the noise that weakens them. Picture this. You leave the house feeling confident, even proud of how you look today. The day begins well, steady steps, head held high. Then you walk past a store window, and from that cursed angle, your clothes don't look the way you thought. A second ago, you felt great. A second later, you're doubting yourself. No analysis, no context, just a quick sentence. I look awful. And just like that, the movie begins. Every reflection becomes an inspection. Every stranger's glance feels like judgment. You're no longer on the street. You're trapped inside your head. The strange thing is, nothing outside has changed. The lighting, your clothes, the people, they're all the same. The only thing that changed was the script your mind started writing without your permission. And instead of editing it, you read it as if it were the truth. By the time you get where you're going, your energy's not the same. You went from confident to insecure, all because of a story you never stopped to fact-check. In that moment, you're not in charge of your mind. Your mind is in charge of you. If something as small as a reflection can shake you, how are you going to handle real storms? This is where a Stoic sets themselves apart. They train their mind like their life depends on it, because it does. Let me tell you a story to help you understand. You've probably heard this name, Viktor Frankl. He lived it firsthand. In a concentration camp with no power to change anything around him, he found a sliver of freedom in the most unexpected place, the way he chose to interpret each day. He decided not to let his mind become a battlefield against himself. That choice kept him alive and clear-headed in the worst imaginable circumstances. He couldn't control the world, but he could control how he saw it. That brings us to a principle Epictetus made crystal clear. No man is free if he is not master of himself. He wasn't talking about suppressing emotions, but about recognizing which thoughts give your life strength and which ones poison it. Because if you don't make that distinction, you end up living under the rule of ideas that were never even yours. Here's a trick you can start using today. Andrew Huberman, a neuroscientist, explains that you can observe your thoughts as if they were mental objects. Just like you'd look at a cloud and say, that's a cloud. You can look at a thought and label it. This is worry. This is fear. Doing that reduces activity in the amygdala, the brain's emotional alarm system, and helps lower anxiety. It's like taking a step back to remind yourself, a thought isn't a command, it's just a thought. Let's put it into practice. First, take a few minutes each day to identify the types of thoughts that come up most often. Write them down with no filter, no sugarcoating. Then question them. Ask yourself if what you're thinking is a proven fact or just your interpretation. Finally, swap them for a more useful version. If your mind says, "I'm going to fail," reframe it as, "I'm going to learn something new." It's not lying to yourself. It's choosing a script that helps you instead of one that sabotages you. We're not talking about eliminating all negative thoughts. That's not possible. We're talking about not letting a single one grab the wheel and steer you somewhere you don't want to go. The difference between being a slave or master of your mind lies in realizing that you can always choose which story to believe. And the more you train that choice, the stronger you become in facing anything, whether the sun is shining or a storm's rolling in. Because that's what we're after here, for you to live with the discipline and mental clarity of a Stoic, strong enough to overcome most of your struggles no matter what's happening outside, so that your day isn't defined by a reflection in a window, a comment from someone else, or an unexpected event, but by your decision to stay in control. Your mind isn't your enemy, but if you don't train it, it can become your worst jailer. And on this path of forcing yourself to live like a Stoic, your real freedom begins in that tiny space between thought and response. Train it daily, because that's where you stop being a slave and start being the master of your life. Lesson 19. Eliminate the voices that distract you. The Stoics had an obsession, inner calm. To them, it wasn't a luxury or decoration. It was a necessary condition for living well. You could be surrounded by shouting in the marketplace, rumors in the town square, political debates in the Senate. But if your mind remained serene, you were still free. And now I ask you, can you say the same about yourself today? Think about how your day begins. You wake up, and the first thing you do is check your phone. 1 notification, 2, 20. Messages, headlines, social media, ads. Your mind, still half asleep, gets hit with its first wave of noise. You've barely had breakfast, and you've already read 5 alarmist headlines. Seen a perfectly staged photo from someone's life and compared it to your own, and overheard 2 or 3 complaints on your way to work. Before the day even begins, your head is full of voices that aren't yours. Now imagine for a moment that all of that became real. You walk into a room and around you are dozens of people yelling, "Look at this breaking news. See what this influencer is doing. Buy this now." You're not enough if you don't have that. Voices that won't shut up, that follow you wherever you go. How long could you stand in that room? Probably not long. You'd run out. And yet, that's what you allow into your mind every single day. Psychology explains this well. Our brains aren't built to handle this much information. They get overloaded. They lose the ability to filter. It's like trying to write on a sheet that's already full of scribbles. No matter what you try to add, everything becomes a blur. The more noise you consume, the harder it is to focus on what truly matters. And that mess turns into anxiety, fatigue, and the constant feeling of being alive, but never really present. The Stoics saw this coming centuries ago. Seneca wrote, "Part of happiness is not wanting things you don't need." And tell me, do you really need to know what some stranger had for breakfast on social media? Do you really need to stay updated on the latest meaningless controversy of the day? Does your mind really need to stay switched on 24/7, absorbing information that changes nothing in your life? Of course not. But every time you accept that noise, you're weakening your ability to think for yourself. Now picture what a day without all that noise would feel like. You wake up, and instead of reaching for your phone, you take a deep breath. You feel your body. Give thanks for the new day. You sit down to breakfast, no TV, no headlines, just a quiet meal, paying attention to the taste. You walk outside without headphones, listening to the wind, people's footsteps, your own breathing. At lunch, instead of doom scrolling through the news, you stay present. Later, when the urge hits to open social media, you ask yourself, do I really need this, or am I just looking to escape? And at night, instead of getting lost in endless videos, you write a few lines about what you learned today. So now you know. Try just one day of mental detox. One day where you choose not to fill your head with junk. One day where you clean out the room in your mind, so it stops feeling like a noisy marketplace. and starts feeling like a calm space where your own voice can be heard. Marcus Aurelius practiced this through his meditations. He didn't write them to publish or to impress. He wrote them to organize his mind, to filter out the world's noise, and focus on what truly mattered. That act of writing was his way of clearing the clutter and regaining control. And if it worked for an emperor surrounded by soldiers, politicians, and flatterers, how could it not work for you? My friend, in a world that never stops shouting, true courage lies in choosing silence. Every time you decide to shut out the noise, you train your mind to focus on what matters. And that's the key to this message. If you truly want to change your life, you have to force yourself to act. And no action is possible in a mind crowded with other people's voices. Clarity is born from silence, and silence only comes when you make space for it inside yourself. The choice is yours. Keep living with your head like a room full of shouting, or start clearing it out so your own thoughts finally have space to breathe. Just remember, silence isn't absence, it's power. Lesson 20. Let go of pointless battles. Let me ask you something, and be honest. How many times have you lost your peace over a ridiculous comment? How many arguments have you gotten into just for the pride of proving you were right? And here's the hard part. How many of those fights do you still remember with anger, even though they left you with nothing but exhaustion? My friend, it's simple. Most of the time, we end up fighting wars we should have never started. Picture this. You're in a WhatsApp group with coworkers. Everything's fine until someone writes, "People who work from home do half the work. They're just lazy freeloaders." You read that, and your blood boils, because you've been working remotely for months and you know how much effort it takes. So without thinking it through, you reply, "That's not true. Studies show productivity is actually higher. I get more done from home than many do in the office." You think that settles it. But no, that's just the beginning of the war. He replies within a minute. "Yeah, right," says someone who just doesn't want to get up early or deal with a boss. And now you can't stop. You start sending links to studies, news articles, statistics. Each message is longer, more detailed, more intense. You feel the need to prove you're not lazy, that your work matters. And instead of backing off, he keeps poking. Stop justifying yourself. Remote work is for the comfortable. 20 minutes go by. You haven't eaten dinner. You're glued to your phone, heart racing, sending messages like you're defending your honor in court. Part of you knows you won't convince him, but another part insists that if you let him have the last word, you've lost. And what do you get? By midnight, the group is full of messages. You're exhausted, your head pounding, and your coworker closes the whole thing with, "Well, everyone makes up whatever suits them." You close the chat, but you can't sleep. You're still replaying everything you should have said. Now breathe and ask yourself, what would have happened if, instead of taking the bait, you'd read that comment and set your phone down to enjoy your dinner? You'd have eaten in peace, slept better, and woken up with the energy to focus on what really matters. That, unbelievable as it may seem, would have been a much greater victory than winning the argument. Psychology backs this up. Researchers at Stanford published a study called Selective Conflict Regulation, which showed that people who learn to choose which arguments to engage in and which to let go of experience less chronic stress and build healthier relationships over time. So it's not about avoiding conflict entirely, it's about filtering it. Ask yourself, is this really worth spending my peace on? How can you apply this in your daily life with modern Stoic strategies? First, shift your intention from winning to softening. If someone tries to drag you into a useless debate, say something like, "I agree it's a topic worth discussing," and leave it at that. You disarm them without stepping into the ring. Second, use phrases that acknowledge the other person without joining their battle. For example, "I understand this matters to you." You're not backing down, you're closing the door without slamming it. Third, the absurd exit. When someone tries to provoke you, respond with something so off the wall it breaks the rhythm. Humor disarms people faster than logic. And fourth, the most powerful one, walk away with dignity. Say, "In the end, it's my choice, and move on. Not because you're avoiding the issue, but because you're choosing not to hand over your peace to a fight that doesn't deserve it. Marcus Aurelius said it clearly in his Meditations. Do not waste what's left of your life arguing about what others do or say. And he didn't write that from the comfort of a peaceful home. He was an emperor surrounded by scheming senators, problems from soldiers, and enemies looking to provoke him. He could have answered them all, but he knew that would drain him. So he chose to save his energy for what mattered: governing, reflecting, and tending to his soul. That's the kind of discipline that defines a Stoic. So tell me, what's the point of spending your entire day trying to convince your brother-in-law about politics, replying to your boss's sarcastic comment, or debating a stranger on the internet there isn't one? Every time you enter those battles, you're giving away your serenity. And the irony is, even when you win, you lose. Because you didn't choose the fight, they did. What truly changes everything is learning to keep your energy for what matters. That's the discipline and mental clarity you deserve. Because when you choose which battles to fight and which ones to let go, your whole life shifts. You move lighter. You stop wasting ammo on fireworks that light up nothing. Lesson 21. Master your head before it masters you. Your mind is like that annoying friend who gets drunk at a wedding and grabs the microphone to sing Despacito, even though no one asked. If you don't get him off the stage in time, he ruins the party. But unlike that friend, you can't just shove your mind into a taxi and send it home. Here, you have to learn to calm it down while you keep dancing. I don't blame you, my friend. I used to believe that voice in my head was smarter than me too. That it was right when it said, "You're not good enough for this. Everyone's watching you. You're going to fail." For years, I thought the only thing I could do was put up with it and pretend I didn't hear, while inside I kept shrinking smaller and smaller. Until one day, in the most unexpected place, someone showed me how to start quieting it down. It was on an ice rink, during an especially cold winter. I'd gone skating with some friends, convinced it would be a disaster because I'd never put on skates in my life. And sure enough, for the first half hour, I just clung to the railing like my life depended on it, with the voice in my head saying, "You look ridiculous, everyone's staring, you're going to fall." At one point, a friend shouted at me from the center of the rink to let go already and just try, that nothing would happen. I took a deep breath, let go, and after just a few feet I slipped and fell flat on my back. The ice was freezing, obviously, but what hurt most was looking around and feeling like everyone was staring at me. I got up awkwardly, red as a tomato, and right then I decided to leave the rink and head home. But just as I was taking off my gloves, ready to go, I saw him. An older man, gray hair, wearing a red scarf, gliding around the rink with incredible calm. What was curious was that he was limping. With every turn, his right leg seemed to betray him, yet he never lost his smile. I watched him, hypnotized, and something inside me told me I had to ask him how he did it. So when he came off the rink, I walked over without thinking and blurted out, "How do you do it? How can you be so calm with everyone watching and with that leg?" He smiled at me and said something I'll never forget. "Because I'm not my leg, and I'm not the eyes of others either. I'm just the one who decides to take one more lap." That phrase kept echoing in my head all afternoon. Even while I tried to laugh with my friends, I couldn't stop thinking about that man and how he'd said those words with such peace, as if he'd been rehearsing them for years. When I got home, still with my wet gloves in my backpack, I sat down at the computer and started searching. I didn't know exactly what to type, so I wrote, "How to quiet the voice in my head." Among the first results was a quote from Marcus Aurelius that hit me like a bucket of ice water. "Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought." I stared at it for a long time, reading and rereading. And then it clicked. It was like the drunk at the wedding. If I gave him the microphone, he sang and took over the dance floor. But if I took it away, the party went on, and calm finally returned. The thing is, all of us, sooner or later, go through something like that. I'm sure it's happened to you. You're on the subway, leaning on the door, and you feel like everyone's staring at you because you're wearing new shoes. Your mind starts, "Why are they looking at me like that? They probably think they look bad." But if you look up and actually pay attention, you'll see no one's looking at you. They're too busy scrolling through TikTok or trying not to miss their stop. In your head, you're the star, but in reality, you're just another extra. Or imagine you're in a meeting and while you're talking, your boss furrows his brow. Your mind races. That's it. I'm getting fired. I screwed up. But then you find out he was just deciding what to order for lunch, or even something as silly as getting an okay in a text. You convince yourself they hate you, they're mad you did something wrong, when in reality they were just in a hurry. That's how the mind works, my friend. It makes up stories, repeats them in a solemn voice, and if you don't stop it, you end up believing them all. But don't worry, this can be trained. So tell me, are you ready to start today and in just 7 days become someone who's in charge of their own head? First, give that annoying inner voice a name. Call it whatever you want. It can be dramatic Dave, exaggerated Julia, or intense Shark, whatever comes to mind. Once you name it, it feels less serious, easier to ignore. Second, the next time an uncomfortable thought attacks you, don't bottle it up. Write it down on a napkin and throw it in the trash in front of someone, even if they look at you funny. Just to remind yourself it doesn't matter. You are not what you think. Lesson 22. Drop the backpack if you want to run faster. Imagine you're about to climb a mountain. You're motivated, full of energy, but you decide to carry a huge backpack just in case. You pack heavy memories, tools you'll probably never use, even gifts that don't really make sense for the journey. Halfway up, you're exhausted. Every step feels unbearable. Then, an elderly man passes you, light on his feet, carrying only a small canteen. You ask him how he's moving so fast, and he smiles and says, "Because I learned to carry only what really helps me." That scene is a brutal metaphor for life. So many of us are hauling around a backpack full of things we don't need. And the worst part is, we don't even realize it. It's not just physical stuff we accumulate, it's worries, commitments we didn't want to say yes to, thoughts that echo in our heads and drain us. And of course, there comes a point when the exhaustion isn't from what you're doing. It's from everything you're carrying without meaning to. It's like trying to run a marathon wearing hiking boots and a sack of bricks on your back. In today's world, more and more people are waking up to this. Joshua Fields Milburn and Ryan Nicodemus, creators of the Minimalists podcast, shared that when they downsized their belongings, they didn't just clear out their homes. They found mental clarity. Suddenly, they had less anxiety, more energy, and a kind of freedom they'd never felt before. Because every item you keep unnecessarily is like a debt. It demands space, attention, time. And the same goes for what you store in your mind. Even back then, Seneca made it clear, it's not the man who has too little who is poor, but the one who craves more. And here's the thing, it's not about material poverty. It's about a poverty of spirit, the kind that shows up when nothing ever feels like enough. The trap isn't in owning little, it's in needing too much to feel complete. Think about it. Every time you accumulate just to accumulate, you're not gaining freedom, you're losing it. The Stoic mindset went in the opposite direction. They weren't looking to fill up, they were trying to lighten the load. Because when you clear out what you don't need, you realize real strength isn't in everything you carry, it's in how little you truly need to move forward. That Stoic discipline is like training a muscle of clarity. Every time you choose to let go of something useless, you recover energy for what truly matters. And that's the difference between dragging your way through life or moving with lightness. Now, picture this. You go to the gym and decide to pack several bags of rice in your backpack, just in case you get hungry on the treadmill. Absurd, right? Not only does it not help, it drains you before you even begin. And yet we do the same in life, carrying worries, obligations, and clutter that only weigh us down, while swearing they're necessary. So how do you start emptying that backpack? This might feel hard at first, but trust me, it's worth it. Do a quick cleanup. Choose 5 things you don't use and donate or throw them out today. Not tomorrow. Today. That jacket you haven't worn in 3 winters? Donate it. Those shoes that always hurt your feet, let them go. Old cables you've kept just in case? Trash. That dusty mug taking up space in the kitchen? Give it away. Books you've read and know you won't open again? Let someone else enjoy them. Next, look at your commitments. Ask yourself, how many things am I doing just out of obligation, not because they truly feed me? Learn to say no, because every yes you give to something that doesn't matter is another weight in your pack. And finally, look inside your head. We all have thoughts that repeat and do us no good. Identify one and make a decision to stop feeding it. Writing it down and crossing it out is a great way to begin letting it go. Now, my friend, this isn't about turning into a hardcore minimalist or living in an empty room. It's about something deeper, learning to recognize what adds to your life and what takes away. Because when you live with discipline and mental clarity, when you begin to empty that backpack, you discover you can overcome the vast majority of your difficulties without needing anything outside to change. That lightness isn't a luxury, it's raw power. Think about the road ahead. It's not about getting there first or competing with anyone. It's about reaching your destination free. And for that, everything you let go of is like taking a stone out of your shoe. Every step gets easier, lighter. If you really want to force yourself to live like a Stoic, start lightening your load today. Make that small gesture to let go, even if it's something tiny. Because your life isn't defined by what you hold on to, but by what you're willing to leave behind. Lesson 23. Endure the pain and turn it into strength. Imagine you're sitting in a classroom and the teacher walks in without saying hello, wearing a serious face, a wrinkled suit, and carrying a stack of papers. That teacher is pain. He's demanding, doesn't explain things kindly, and sometimes doesn't even seem fair. He asks uncomfortable questions, throws surprise tests at you, and never gives you time to prepare. And you, sitting there with sweaty palms and your heart in your throat, all you want is to stand up and run out the door. But if you stay in that chair, if you listen and learn, you eventually realize that teacher didn't come to punish you. He came to teach you. And here's the trick. Pain doesn't ask for permission. It shows up, sits on your couch, kicks its feet up on the table, and gets comfortable. You can try to kick it out, but the more you push, the tighter it clings. Or you can invite it to train with you. Because yes, you can transform yourself in just 7 days if you act like a Stoic, with discipline to not give up, clarity to see you're not the only one suffering, and courage to hold on just a little longer. Epictetus knew this well. He wrote, "Suffering arises from wanting things to be different than they are." He himself was a slave, lame, beaten, and humiliated. And even so, he chose to think, "It's not what happens to me, it's what I do with it." That's the question you should be asking too. Not if it will hurt, but what will you do with that pain? Because the Stoics didn't run from it. They faced it. They knew that, like muscles in the gym, the mind grows stronger under weight. And if you don't believe me, let me tell you a story that proves it. Imagine being locked in a tiny cell, day after day, with a death sentence hanging over your head for something you didn't do. You hear the guard's keys jingling, the door of another cell opening, someone else who never comes back. And you wonder, will it be me tomorrow? That's how Anthony Graves lived for 18 years. 18. With the sound of keys, the cold light of the corridor, and the echo of his own breathing reminding him no one believed he was innocent. Many in his place would have broken, would have let hate devour them, and he admits he almost gave up at first. But one day, staring at the ceiling of his cell, he asked himself, "If this is the time I have left, what can I do with it?" And that's when everything began to change. He started reading, writing letters, helping other inmates prepare their appeals, teaching himself not to hate even when he had every reason to. Years passed, and when he was finally exonerated and walked out of that prison, he didn't come out full of rage or revenge. He came out with a mission. He founded an organization to help others wrongfully convicted. Today he gives talks about his story and always ends with the same phrase, looking his audience in the eye. "If I had given up, they would have won." And there's the key. He couldn't choose what happened to him, but he could choose what to do with that pain. He turned it into something others could use to rise. That is real strength. But you don't have to go through something so extreme to understand it. Sometimes all it takes is an ordinary Tuesday. After a long day, you go to the dentist thinking it's just a cleaning. Suddenly they say, "You need an emergency extraction." Your hands sweat, you crack bad jokes to hide the fear, you grip the chair, and you endure. When you walk out, half numb with a cotton ball in your mouth, you think, "That wasn't so bad." That I endured feeling stays with you all week. And it's no accident. Science has shown that when you train your mind to endure a little more, to get back up even when it hurts, to do something uncomfortable every day, your brain adapts. It learns that pain doesn't kill you. You can handle it. And little by little you become unrecognizable. That fragile version of you starts looking back at you in the mirror with a stronger gaze. My friend, I know you're strong. Even if you forget sometimes, I know you can turn pain into your greatest strength. First, when something hurts, name it out loud and acknowledge it. Say it. This is fear, not death. This is sadness, not disaster. When you name it, you stop fighting blindly. Second, instead of avoiding it, start. Even if it's just 5 minutes, you face it. If you're afraid to go for a run, put on your shoes and go. If that conversation scares you, make the call now. The point isn't to beat it, it's to step up to it. Third, use humor. Imagine pain as an annoying clown. Yeah, one of those with a big red nose who plops down in your living room. Make fun of it a little, look it in the eye and say, "Is that all you've got?" You'll see how it loses power. Lesson 24. Clean out everything that's weighing you down. Some houses look like antique shops. All it takes is a moment to stop and really look. That shelf crammed with little figurines you can't even remember who gave you. Drawers stuffed with manuals for phones that don't even exist anymore. An inbox about to burst. Pure chaos, more dust than intention. And the funny thing is, our minds are usually the same. Full of junk that no longer serves us. Relationships that smell of mildew, and thoughts that weigh as much as an old sofa. That feeling of living surrounded by useless stuff slowly robs you of space, energy, and clarity without you even noticing. Living with what's unnecessary is like pushing a grocery cart piled high with expired cans. It's heavy to move, squeaks with every step, and on top of that, it doesn't even feed you. But still, you cling to it out of fear of letting it go, as if losing it would be worse than carrying it. Epictetus, who knew what it was like to live with just the essentials, put it better than anyone. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. And he lived it. He owned just a cloak, some sandals, and a staff, yet he taught kings how to be free while walking lightly. And it wasn't just Epictetus. The Stoics in general saw simplicity as a kind of freedom. Seneca, for example, one of the richest men in Rome, would sometimes sleep on the floor and eat stale bread to remind himself he needed nothing more than his mind to be at peace. Marcus Aurelius, even as emperor, dressed simply and avoided the luxuries others desperately chased. For them, surrounding yourself with excess wasn't a prize, it was a chain. And that's the great lesson. The more you fill yourself with things, the harder it is to move. That's why they trained themselves to live with little, so nothing and no one could buy their calm. And no, it's not just about material things. It's also about what you keep on your phone and in your head. For example, you open WhatsApp and there are those dead groups from 2019 with names like Barcelona trip or gym dinners. Full of stale memes and broken promises, you read those messages and instead of moving forward, you stay there, tied to a past that no longer matters. So that same afternoon, instead of wasting time, you delete those chats, throw out the box of cables you've been keeping just in case, and block that ex who still sends not-so-subtle messages on the worst nights. And even though it seems small, that cleaning already starts making room for something new. So, my friend, the next time you feel like your head or your backpack is too heavy, try this to lighten it up. You've got a week to reset yourself, and I promise you can become unrecognizable if you do it with discipline and courage. Start by cleaning your space. Yes, that's simple. Look at it right now. That desk full of pens that don't write, crumpled notes, manuals for gadgets you don't even own anymore, and a cable nobody knows what it's for. All that weighs more than you think. So, one by one, take everything out of the drawers, the table, under the keyboard. If you don't know what it's for or you'd forgotten about it, out it goes. If you haven't used it in months, out too. When you're done, you won't just see a clear desk. You'll feel your head breathe a little easier. Then I dare you to open your inbox and empty it until you have fewer than 10 emails left. Yes, fewer than 10. It might take a couple of hours. It might feel tedious. But afterward, you'll breathe deeper, like you just shed a soaking wet coat. And finally, review who you follow on social media. Those people who only post complaints, cryptic jabs, or pictures that make you feel worse. They're not helping you. Imagine you had to invite everyone you follow to dinner tomorrow. Would you? If not, out. Unfollow, mute, remove. No one's going to notice except you, who will feel like you just opened the windows and let the air in. If you do this right, by the end of the week you won't just have cleaned your house, your phone, and your feeds. You'll have cleared your mind too, because the things you cling to out of fear of losing them are the same things that keep you from moving forward. And if you want to see a different you in just 7 days, start here. Your surroundings say more about you than you think. Every day is a chance to show, through action, who you are and who you want to become. Don't wait for the perfect moment, because it never comes. Your best self doesn't just show up one day. You build it, with every decision, every habit, and every time you choose to act instead of getting distracted. If you've made it this far, make it known in the comments. Write, "I build my best self." They say those who stay until the end always find their reward. And you just did. So I invite you to subscribe, like, and share this video with someone who might need it. Click now on the videos you see on screen, because the journey is just beginning.